Want to edit like a pro but don't know where to start? In this video, I'll be breaking down all the Lightroom basics you should know to start editing. If you're new to Lightroom or just want to improve on your current editing skills, this video will cover all the essentials you need to know. So with that said, let's jump in. Okay, so this is the library space. This is where all the imported images which you have already imported will be there. So if you want to import an image, you can click import here and go and select any file you want and click import. So because we have already imported this, let's hop on to develop. In the develop section, onto your right side you have got all your color grading panels, and onto your left side you have got all your presets. In this video I won't be using any presets, although in the end of the video I'll be showing you what each of these presets will make this image look like. So with that said, we are going to hop on to first cropping the image so that we know exactly which portion of the image we'll be editing and color grading on. I'm going to crop it by 4:5 and adjust it how I like to, and then we'll click enter. If you want to post it on Instagram, it's always best to go with 4:5. I generally start off with highlighting the subject and making sure it pops out from the rest of the background so that the attention is drawn to the subject rather than everything else in frame. So we're going to go ahead and highlight the subject. For this image, we will be making the background darker because the subject is already perfectly lit. So let's go ahead to radial and select the subject. So now the subject is selected and we're going to go and click invert because we're going to darken the background. So I'm going to drop the shadows a little and then also the highlights a little bit. And once that's done, I will go back to my editing panels. I will right away hop onto tone and curve. In tone and curves, I will be making a S curve. What S curve does is it makes the shadows darker and the highlights brighter. This gives a little more of an aesthetic vibe and it separates everything a little more. So I generally do something like this to give it a little more of a aesthetic vibe. So we're going to go ahead to the color mixer tool and choose this orange. So we're going to go ahead and choose this and we are going to make the orange rose or whatever you call it pop a little more. So we're going to go and first move the hue around to see if there is a better color. You can see it here, right? So the more you move this, you can either make this orange become a reddish pink or you can make it yellow. So we're going to just move it a little bit to see which suits more. So the more to the red side suits a little more, so we're going to go ahead and leave it there. So this is the saturation. So let's go ahead and just try increasing it. It looks a little low now, so we are going to just leave it the way it was. You can double click on something for it to go back to 0. And then we are going to go and try to increase the luminous, which will make the selected portion brighter. So here, as you can see, this looks nicer when you increase it by 20. So let's leave it at that. And then let's go ahead and increase its pink rose in the back and see if changing the hue will work a little bit onto the pinkish red side. Looks nicer, so it makes the color pop a little more. Let's increase the saturation also. See, when we're increasing saturation here, it's also affecting this, so we don't want that, so we're going to leave it back at 0. Let's try increasing the lume. Yeah, that looks right. Okay, so now since we're done with the color mixer panel, let's hop on to the color grading panel. In the color grading panel, we will be making the look and feel and theme of how the image will look in the end. So this is a very important place to stick around a little more and play around with all of these sliders so that the image will look a little more aesthetic in the end. So I generally don't mess around much with the midtones panel. I do a lot with the shadows and highlights. Because the midtones, see, if you move something around, it'll make everything change color, which I don't like personally. So I'm going to go ahead and start moving the shadow panel, and then so I'm going to keep it in somewhere like aqua blue, and then highlights I'm going to keep it in somewhere like reddish, and yeah, this seems to be okay. So then we're going to move on to sharpening your image. So generally you'd want to sharpen your subject rather than the whole image itself, so that the subject stands out way more than the rest. So we are going to increase this, say, to 80, and then to make sure only your subject is sharpened and not the rest of the image, you can go and click Option or Alt if you're using Windows, and increase the mask until only your subject is selected. So this seems to be right. I'm going to leave it right there. And then you can also see our image here is not noisy, so we are not going to mess with the denoise section. But if your image is noisy, you can go ahead here and just click denoise, and it will automatically denoise your image and remove all of those noisy graininess. So we are going to go ahead and leave this on. You would generally want to leave this on because this gives a little bit of vignette. So vignetting is the darkness which comes from the corner, darkness or brightness depending on whatever you want. It's the light which comes from the corners, right? So we are going to keep this on, and we can manually increase it if you want. So we are going to go to the vignetting section, and we're going to make it a little dark from the corners. And so the lens blur thing is, say if you want a little more background blur or something, you click apply and go and mess around with this to give you more depth of field. So we don't want to do that, we want to just leave it the way it is. So we're going to go back to the first panel and start playing around with the clarity a little. So clarity is a little bit of a tricky thing. It depends on image to image. Some images you wouldn't want to increase the clarity, some image you would increase it a little. In this instance, we'll keep it at, say, 11 or 12. That seems to be right. If you keep increasing it, it'll look more fake. So let's just increase it to 100 just so that you know how it will look like. See, if you increase it more, it looks fake. So we're going to click Ctrl Z, and we're going to go back to 12. And also in terms of clarity, let's just increase it a little and keep it that also at like 10. This seems to be something I like. So now we are going to make this portion of the image brighter, because this is a reflection of the glass which I've shot through, and this is a area which has a lot of highlights. So we would want to increase this highlights a little more. So we'll be going to the panel here and going to linear grade, increasing the highlights from this section a little more, and that seems to be fine. And yeah, so this is something where I would generally keep my image at and call it a day, where you know what, I like this. And then once you're done color grading it, you can go right ahead here, click File, Export, click specific folder, and go and choose exactly which folder you want to export the image to, and click Export. Okay, so we'll be starting from the top, and we'll be going just down just to see if it looks good. We're not going to use any, but we're just going to have an idea of what these presets will look like with one image. Okay, so this is too dark. This one takes away the color of the roses. See, so now this looks good, but we can just play around with it. See, with this, we can play around with it and go further to do the adjustments just to make this to exactly how you like it to look like. But for this video, we won't be using any presets. We'll just be hovering through each and every one of them just to see how they look. See, some of them look nice, some of them don't. So it all depends on what you like. Once you go through the presets, you'll know, okay, this is what your theme is, this is what you're looking for, and then you can proceed to click on that preset and edit it like that. So that will be a proper foundation for you to edit on top of. Okay, so now that you know how to color grade the image from start to end, you start doing this every single day. You just keep doing it repeatedly and you'll become really good eventually. That's how every single skill in the world is. You keep doing it and you get better at it over time. So keep doing it, and if you want to see images of what I have color graded in the past, what I have shot in the past, you can go ahead and check out my Instagram. And also, if you've got any questions or whatnot, go ahead and ask it in the comment section down below. And yeah, see you in the next one.